Je m'appelle Kendra Titley et je serai l'animatrice de ce point de presse. Today we will be hearing remarks from Mayor le Maire Jim Watson, Alain Gauthier, General Manager, Public Works, Directeur Général, Service des Travaux Publics, Kim Ayotte, General Manager, Emergency and Protective Services, Directeur Général des Services de Protection et d'Urgence, Bryce Conrad, President and Chief Executive Officer, Hydro Ottawa, Président et Chef de la Direction, and Joseph Muglia, Director, System Operations and Grid Automation, Hydro Ottawa, Directeur, Rotation, Système et Automatisation du Réseau. We also have additional city staff to answer questions following remarks. At this time, I would like to invite His Worship, Jim Watson, Mayor of the City of Ottawa, to say a few words.
Thank you very much, Kendra, and good afternoon, everyone. Bonjour tout le monde. Well, the storm recovery continues.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Remains on supporting the decreasing number of residents who still do not have power. The bulk of the electricity grid is now fully operational, and Hydro Ottawa was able to relaunch their online outage map once again. At this time, power has been restored to nearly 177,000 hydro customers, with 3,000 still without power. As hydro crews resolve the remaining outages, the date of reconnection to remaining customers depends, of course, on a number of factors, including downed trees and damaged poles that require replacement in the hardest hit areas. Areas such as Alta Vista, River Ward, Innes Ward, Cumberland are some of the hardest hit. Our city crews remain focused on supporting residents who still do not have power, those 3,000, and removing trees and other debris to facilitate the work of hydro crews. We understand, of course, the hardship and frustration that families and residents have experienced trying to manage life without power for 10 days. Je sais que ça n'a pas été facile.
I know it was not easy for the families and residents who are without power for the past 10 days.
Thank all of our impacted residents for their patience during this difficult time. I also know that it's been a real struggle for many people in our community. I also want to thank the caring neighbors. We keep hearing story after story of caring neighbors and community volunteers who've done so much to support their fellow residents in this time of need. The Emergency Operations Center of the City of Ottawa continues to assess and respond to the needs of residents in impacted neighborhoods. The 4 community support centers are open from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. daily, providing services and information for residents, while access to city recreation centers is available to those who need it. Residents have many questions. We're getting a lot of calls about debris removal, garbage pickup, and other city services, and our 311 call center continue to manage a record number of calls. The city will continue with regular garbage and recycling collection, and city crews are working hard to remove large branches and trees put out to the curb. There may be some delays with pickup, but we will get to it as quickly as possible, and I want to thank you for your understanding. You know, there's a lot of trees and branches. We're asking people to bring them to the front of their driveway, or rather the end of the driveway, and they will eventually get picked up, and we will assume that responsibility and that cost. But don't expect them in the next day or two. We've got crews out in the hardest hit areas first to make sure passage is clear for obviously emergency vehicles. But going forward, we will not be holding daily media availabilities. However, we will continue to share up-to-date information through our media website and social media channels, and city and hydro representatives will continue to be available to answer questions from the media. Please visit ottawa.ca/storm recovery for more information. Visitez ottawa.ca/après les tempêtes pour plus d'informations. I also at this point want to thank once again our hydro crews, not just Ottawa Hydro and Hydro One, but we had many, and we still have many crews in, and they're not leaving until we get those last 3,000 back up and running. But thank those hydro folks, city councillors, many community partners, including the Canadian Red Cross and Salvation Army. Just to give you some perspective, obviously when people lost their power, we ended up, those individuals lost all their groceries. And to some, it's been a very difficult financial hardship. And to date, we've received 2,500 requests for financial assistance to help those people who had to throw everything out because of the hydro situation. So information is available at 211 for people who do need assistance. And we ask you to call those numbers or 311 211 or 311 to get information on how to apply for that money that can help you replenish your groceries. I'm now going to hand things over to Alain Gauthier, the General Manager of Public Works, to provide a brief update. Thank you. Merci.
Merci, Monsieur le Maire. Good afternoon, everyone. Bonjour tout le monde. I'm just going to provide a quick update today and focus on what we're hearing from residents and also from some of the councillors. The first part is related to restoring our transportation system. We've made great progress over the last few days, and we're now down to basically 4 controlled intersections that are still without power, and we're providing basically generators at 3 of those locations, and then the other one we're still working closely with our partners at Hydro to be able to ensure that we have safe access for those areas and some of the road closures that we're still dealing with. Donc, nos équipes continuent de suivre de près le travail avec Hydro.
Our teams are doing the work, incredible work, and we will proceed with the necessary repairs.
We also know that many residents from across the city have storm debris like branches and brush waiting on the roadside to be collected. As Mr. Mayor indicated, we have crews out across the city, basically looking after the cleanup at different levels of operation. Please leave it at the curb. We will be there to pick it up. In some cases, it's being done as a separate operation. And in some cases, basically, just because of the capacity, we'll be back with different resources to be able to pick things up, but just leave it at the curb. We will be there to pick it up. Soyez assurés que nous passons chez vous.
Rest assured, we will get to you. It will take some time, but we're doing the rounds, often multiple times over. Leave the debris by the sidewalk and we'll pick them up.
Capacity, we're still allocating a lot of resources from Public Works and our partners to address both the hardest hit areas of the city, also other areas that may not have been as significantly impacted, but where there's still significant debris at the curbside. In all the areas across the city, we've made significant progress in terms of opening up roads, removing significant amount of debris, and we expect that to continue in the day and a week to come. One of our bigger pressure area right now is related to forestry and the work on our forestry professionals to address damaged trees. I could assure you that the list is exceptionally long in terms of the requests that we are receiving, and all of them are being prioritized. We are ensuring that we remove hazards as a first pass. In a lot of the cases, we're going to be coming back to complete the job. But we can assure you, we will be back. And as Hydro works progress, we look forward to leveraging the contracted forestry resources that they have been using to allow us to make more significant progress. In terms of resuming services, I mentioned before that it's certainly not business as usual for Public Works. We've had to put on hold some of our maintenance services, the grass cutting, collecting garbage in parks, and minor maintenance. We are resuming some of those services. We recognize that there are works that need to be done. It's going to take us a bit of time to get through it, but we can assure you that we are to the task. We have received a fair number of service requests. We recognize that the grass is getting a little long in some of the areas. We are resuming that service, and we will get to them as quickly as we can. Certainly continuing the storm cleanup while resuming some of the regular operation is very much a balancing act for us in Public Works, and I really want to thank the community for their patience as we navigate that fine line. During every major event that we are dealing with, whether it's a flood, a tornado, a snowstorm, or a severe thunderstorm like the one that we just experienced, our Public Works crews and our valued partners mobilize like small armies to restore a sense of normalcy for our community. The hours are long and often involve hard physical work, but I am absolutely impressed with the dedication of our professionals in Public Works and also all the partners that are working with us. We ask a lot of them, and they continue to give their all day after day until the work is done. I would like to thank each and every one of them, and also the residents who've been supporting them over the past 10 days, and also for the residents that have been going through many of the challenges of their own. J'aimerais toutes et tous les remercier.
I'd like to thank them, each and every one of them, and the residents who have supported them over the past 10 days.
Thank you, Alain. I would now like to invite Kim Ayotte, General Manager, Emergency and Protective Services, to say a few words. J'invite maintenant Kim Ayotte, Directeur Général des Services de Protection et d'Urgence, à dire quelques mots.
Thank you, Kendra. Good afternoon, everyone. Bonjour tout le monde. As the mayor mentioned, approximately 3,000 hydro customers remain without power. While this number is steadily going down, we will continue to offer services and support to those without power and in need. To those still without power and anyone looking for advice or guidance relating to storm recovery, I encourage you to visit one of our community support centers. Les gens qui n'ont pas d'électricité et qui ont besoin du conseil à la suite de la tempête peuvent se rendre dans nos centres de soutien communautaire. These centers are an area the city identified as high need for continued support. The centers have city staff and partner representatives on site, including bylaw and regulatory services, community and social services, Ottawa Public Health, building code services, Canadian Red Cross, and information from the Insurance Bureau of Canada. The centers at Howard Darwin Centennial and Hunt Club Riverside Park also offer food services. Food is available until 7 p.m. tomorrow. We will continually assist the supports as needed. Residents can also visit other city recreational centers and community centers to charge devices and access washrooms and showers. They'll continue to offer these services as they return to normal operations. With regards to wellness visits to support vulnerable residents still without power, as well as vulnerable communities requiring ongoing support as they transition back to normal, will continue. Nous continuons nos visites du bien-être avec nos résidents vulnérables qui n'ont toujours pas d'électricité ou de courant et avec ceux qui ont encore besoin de l'aide lorsqu'ils reprennent leur vie normale. Staff from City Community and Social Services Department, Ottawa Public Health, Ottawa Fire Services crews, and Canadian Red Cross have conducted thousands of wellness visits to date. With regards to volunteer operations, for those interested in joining our cleanup efforts in your neighborhood, I encourage you to sign up for Clean Up the Capital After the Storm campaign. Les personnes qui veulent participer au nettoyage fourni dans leur secteur peuvent s'inscrire à la campagne nettoyage de la capitale après la tempête. Residents can sign up for the campaign on the storm recovery page at ottawa.ca. Those who sign up will be given cleanup starter kits, which include yard waste bags, garbage bags, and gloves. I'd like to extend my deepest gratitude to the hundreds of volunteers who have lent their helping hand over the past week. Your ongoing support makes all the difference in the city's recovery. As we turn a corner in our recovery efforts and many return to their daily lives, I'd like to remind everyone that the work is not over. Some of our cleanup work will continue for many weeks and even months. However, with the support from residents and many organizations like the Canadian Red Cross and the Salvation Army, we will come through this emergency even stronger. Grâce à l'appui des résidents et de nombreuses organisations telles que la Croix-Rouge canadienne et l'Armée du Salut, nous sortirons.
Thanks to the Salvation Army and the Red Cross, we will come out of this emergency situation.
If you need them, they are there for you. We appreciate your continued patience and support. You can also stay current on the storm recovery efforts by following the city social media challenges and visiting ottawa.ca. Thank you. Merci.
Thank you, Kim. Our next speaker is Bryce Conrad, President and Chief Executive Officer, Hydro Ottawa, to say a few words.
Recording in progress.
Finalement, j'invite maintenant Bryce Conrad, Président et Chef de la Direction.
Thank you, Kendra. Good afternoon, everyone. Bonjour tout le monde. At this time, as the mayor has indicated, power has successfully been restored to 98% of all impacted customers by the May 21st storm. 177,000 customers now have power out of 180,000, with 3,000 left to be connected. As I mentioned yesterday, with the bulk grid fully operational, our crews are now concentrating their efforts on the smaller packages of outages which remain. With these smaller outages, the work will continue to be long, hard, and laborious. Sometimes, in some instances, it may involve us bringing in equipment that we need, like a heavy-duty crane, to lift large poles and equipment into backyards. Rest assured, we know that you're out of power. You have not been forgotten, and we know that you're counting on us. Last night, as the mayor mentioned, Hydro Ottawa was able to relaunch our online outage map tailored to customers who remain without power after last week's storm for them to find out the estimated time of restoration. With respect to these estimated times of restoration, please understand that they are simply a guideline based on the information we have at the moment. As I have indicated since the outset of this event, the situation on the ground is both chaotic and dynamic. As crews work, they discover additional damage, which may delay restoration. Conversely, with the sheer number of operational resources that we have at our disposal, and as jobs complete, we may be able to accelerate restoration in other areas. I do want to stress that anyone without power that is not reflected on the map should report it through our 24/7 outage line or through our website. As I've indicated since the outset, as we energize circuits, we're finding damage to customer-owned equipment that connects homes to the electrical supply. Before we can safely reconnect these customers to the grid, there are instances where customers may require repairs to their homes. We have people standing on by to assist in that case. We also ask residents to be patient as we reconnect those raining power across the city. In some instances, customers who have power may experience a temporary power interruption as we restore power to those in your neighborhood or on adjacent streets who are still without. Some of you saw this last night in Canada and the Stittsville area, and again this morning in Parkway Park. Let me assure you, we are not doing any planned work at the moment. All efforts are focused on storm restoration. A number of questions have come in with respect to costs. At this point, we're in a position to provide preliminary costs. We are estimating it between Hydro Ottawa's costs alone, and I stress alone, are somewhere between $25 to $30 million, which would be 5 to 6 times the cost of the 2018 tornadoes. We are thankful, obviously, that the Premier has agreed to cover these costs, and we'll obviously roll these costs up into the final bill that the city submits. As we've been doing all week, we continue to provide daily updates on progress and restoration efforts in key areas through our website, news releases, and via our social media platforms. Thank you very much. Stay safe. Thank you.
I will now invite each media agency to ask their question. You may ask one question with a follow-up. J'invite maintenant chaque organisme à poser une question et une question de suivi. We'll now start with Matthew Cooper at CBC Ottawa.
Hello, I'm here this time. You can hear me?
Yes.
I first just wanted to talk, maybe Mr. Conrad could elaborate a little bit on crews finding more damage as they work on repairs. If an example of that could help explain to someone who's hearing that they might not have power until this coming Friday, why they might be in that situation, how these situations are becoming more complicated. If you could provide an example, please.
Sure. Thanks for the question. 2 examples. One, at the highest level, is in some of the harder hit areas, and I'm thinking Alta Vista, Manor Park, some areas in Overbrook. A lot of the equipment is actually in the backyard of residences. So as we get in and do that backyard work to pick up 8 or 10 people, we're finding that, instead of simply needing to replace a pole, the transformer has also been crushed or something's happened to the transformer. So we need to sort of obviously pivot and replace that. It just takes longer than it otherwise would. In some cases, we're aware of it. I'm aware of at least 2, but don't hold me to this. We need to bring in large cranes, as I said, to sort of lift poles into the backyard. So around pools and various other obstacles, for lack of a better term. So that takes time. Lifting a 50 or 60 foot pole over a house is not an insignificant undertaking. So it just takes time.
And I kind of wanted to open up talking about that financial assistance, the 2,000 some requests for financial assistance, but also if there's any other kind of compensation, how that money is being distributed, or how the need is being assessed for people who, it was one thing when we were talking about 1 week without power, we're starting to approach 2 weeks without power. Does that change how somebody qualifies or the amount of financial assistance they'd be able to receive?
So I'll ask Donna Gray, the General Manager of Social Services, to talk about the program, please.
Thank you, and thank you for the question. So it is a needs-based assessment. So, an individual would need to demonstrate that they have a need, and we would look at, their family size, what is their existing income that they might have, or access to other assets or, resources available to them, and then, determine the amount or calculate the amount that they're available for. And it's kind of on a threshold, a sliding threshold. And that's really our social assistance rates that are set by the province, with which we would do an allocation on an emergency basis. So that would go as long as people can demonstrate need. It's actually an existing program that exists, and we've just kind of tailored or put a local priority on that for this particular emergency situation. And included in that, we would also look and assess to see if they have or need supports for other things like, we've had requests for things like cots or beds where beds have been had water damage, or for medication loss, or so it really is looking at a combination of both a financial need, but also essential health and social supports that might be delivered through another city funded program that they would be eligible for.
Very much. We'll now go to Alex Gouge at City News Ottawa.
Hello, my question is for Bryce. Based on that $25 to $30 million preliminary cost estimate, how much of that is based on like equipment or for like labor costs, for example?
Yeah, that's a great question, Alex. I don't have the breakdown between the operations and the OPEX and the CAPEX expenses, but obviously the capital expenses would be significantly higher than the operational at this point in time, but I just don't have that breakdown.
Okay, thanks. That's my only question today.
Thanks, Alex. Next, we have Ted Raymond at CTV Ottawa.
Hi there. Thanks again for taking our questions today. My first question also for Mr. Conrad. I'm wondering if you could elaborate a little bit more on what you mentioned with some of the power outages that have cropped up since the one in Stittsville and Canada last night, the one out at kind of the Baseline Woodruff area this morning. Can residents expect more of these kind of brief temporary outages? And can you explain a little bit about why they happen and what you're doing to sort of prevent them?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Ted. So look, the storm did a lot of damage to our infrastructure, like a massive amount. Some of that infrastructure fell, some of it stayed up. What we found last night was a piece of infrastructure that was severely damaged and compromised by the storm. We had crews working on site and actually saw the switch fail. So we're able to sort of effect repairs relatively quickly. We are completely cognizant of the fact that the residents are traumatized by this particular event. So we immediately pushed out information on social media saying, we're there, we are aware, we will have this fixed in 3 hours, which I think it took an hour and a half, 2 hours. I spoke to all the relevant counselors last night, letting them know that if this was that, so they could push that out. So we're in a position now where we are intimately aware of just how sensitive everyone is to the power supply. And we're prepared to hold the hands of everybody to get through this. In terms of, this morning, it was the same similar thing. A piece of equipment that otherwise should have failed did finally fail. Storm damage. Do we expect more of this? The system is going to be sensitive for the next, week or two until it sort of works its way through and works itself in. But once we're beyond that, we should be fine. Good news is we still have all of our crews and are able to dispatch and resolve.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. My next question, I guess, is for Mr. Gontier. You mentioned some intersections still without power generators. Can you tell us where those are and what it is that's preventing the fourth one from having a generator?
So through your last question, it's only accessing the site, so it's still an area that hydro crews are working. So as soon as the area is deemed to be safe, then we're going to be able to reopen it up. The other is just basically a lack of power right now to the traffic lights, but we have standby generators. So really, from a traffic perspective, it's not impeding traffic at this point.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. Nous allons maintenant à Julien Paquette à la 3.
This is Julien Paquette. Hello, my question is for the mayor. I'll change topics. You answered a question on anti-gun legislation. Have you had the opportunity to look at the bill today? Thank you, Julien. I support this legislation to ban guns in our country. It's the right policy, and I agree with the other specifics in the bill that were presented to us yesterday. It's a major challenge in all big cities. It's a major challenge, and gun crime is a problem in all major cities across the country. And the government will be working with Canadian Border Services to stop illegal guns coming in from the states across the border into Canada. So basically, I support what the government's doing on this question. Sorry, there's noise behind me. If I understand correctly, you would have referred the bill to do more and to actually ban possession of handguns. Well, look, as you know, a ban on all guns is not an option that the government has chosen, but I think this is a good first step. Thursday, I'll be having a meeting with other mayors, other major city mayors in Regina. I'll be talking about this topic. I think that most other mayors support the banning of handguns also. Thank you, Julien.
We'll now go to Jackie Miller at the Ottawa Citizen.
Oh, hi there. You had mentioned that the community service centers had been opened in some high needs areas. I was wondering if there was any consideration.
Jackie, I apologize. Would you be able to speak up? We can't really hear you.
Okay, can you hear me now? Is that
not so much?
okay? How about now? I'm shouting.
That's a little bit better. Thank you.
Okay. You had mentioned that the community service centers were opened in high needs areas. I was wondering if there was any consideration given to trying to get the electricity back first in those areas, simply because some of those residents are least able to cope with not having power.
Yes, I can answer that, Mr. Mayor. Certainly, that is our priority. Getting the power back to all of the homes is the number one priority. But the social needs of our communities is also very important to us, and that's why we're doing vulnerability checks, and we offer these centers in the area as well as a backup plan, quite frankly, for helping those people who need it at this time. We're very hopeful that the rest of the power will be hooked up soon, and will alleviate a lot of the pressures that those residents are currently facing.
Thank you. My next question was about the trees. I've seen some trees that have trunks that are 2 feet across that have come down. What happens to that wood, to those trees? Is the wood being made use of, at least for furniture or some other use?
I can answer the question. So great question. So right now we're more focused on the actual removal. And we have 4 transfer stations right now where all of the debris is being brought to. We are looking at options for how we're going to be processing that equipment. But I can assure you that the options retained at the end will be for beneficial reuse. Just as an example, back in 2018, when we had the tornadoes, the wood chips that were produced by the trees at that point were sent to the plant in Turso, the paper plant. right now we're looking at different options, and we'll be able to communicate that in the coming weeks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jackie. Nous allons maintenant à Charles Lalonde de Radio-Canada.
Now we'll go to Charles Lalonde at Radio-Canada. A question for the mayor. Could we have more details on the financial help? Well, for people who uses generators for 10 days, it's very expensive and the insurance may not always pay back. So what measures do you have in place to help these people? Well, as Mrs. Gray said, there is a program for people needing assistance because they lost all their food. We didn't have a plan for individual owners in the city of Ottawa. It's not possible for us to provide financial assistance to everybody, but the priority goes to help people the most in need on social assistance, people that have other money challenges. Now, a question for Hydro. You all said one after the other that you understand the frustration, the impatience of people. Do you think that the 3,000 people without power now are starting to be very impatient? Yes, since the storm, we appreciate the patience of all our clients. It's been 10 days now, so the 3,000 that are left are more and more impatient day after day. So we understand. We're working as hard as we can. We've been using all of our resources. We're doing everything we can to rise to the challenge.
This concludes today's media availability. Cela conclut le point de presse d'aujourd'hui. Thank you very much. Merci.
Thank you. Merci beaucoup.